Diorama, a model representing a scene in three dimensions, using figures and usually as a slice of a bigger scene. We're gonna be drawing some of those. So this is an exercise I've been doing a lot on my stream, as you can see some examples here. And it's just a nice way to warm up and to start to think in three dimensions. And I think if you can get the hang of doing this, you can actually use some of this in your workflow, and that's probably going to help you immensely in drawing, because in the end of the day, drawing things requires you to think of a deep space, as in there are two dimensions and you're creating a third by using clever line manipulation, that is perspective. So if you can become good at it, you will be able to do very complex scenes in 3D without getting lost. So the way I usually approach this is I get a horizon line, and this just tells me how much of the top or the bottom of objects I'm gonna see, and then I tend to create a fairly simple shape, kind of like this. So a bit of a cube, and here I'm already not going along with the horizon line, so hooray, I have officially broken my own rules in 30 seconds from saying them. So let's just move this horizon line to a proper position, which should be about here. Anyways, so you draw a fairly simple shape in 3D, which for me, I like to start with this kind of shape. And then from this, you're gonna start to do some cross contour lines, and you may not understand why you're doing them, but this is kind of an alternative to shading, which is much more simple and doesn't require you to know anything about light and shadow. So hey, that's pretty good, right? The idea for this is you're creating a wireframe over the surface of an object. So when you add an object to the scene, like I'm gonna do here with a cylinder, you are gonna add the cross contour lines to it as well. And you should try to only affix objects to the surface of other objects. That is kind of a self-imposed rule I created for this exercise, and I find that makes things much easier. So here I'm gonna just remove everything that's inside here, and I'm gonna continue this cross contour line up, and I'm gonna add one here. I think this should be more open, and so now we have a cube, well, not a cube, but like a plane with a cylinder on top. Where am I going with this, you may ask? Well, honestly, I have no idea, but we're gonna find out together. So with these dioramas, I try not to think too much about the scene I'm creating and just adding objects that sound interesting. So here I'm creating a more organic shape, and that's okay. You should try to do more of those than you do just very metric, not metric, but like measured shapes. You should try to go for things that feel more organic, because in the end of the day, you are not very likely to be drawing much that is very geometrical. So by warping this stuff and by creating more lines that are organic, you are training yourself to be able to draw organic shapes in perspective. And since I'm basing all of these shapes in shapes that already exist, you can sort of inherit the perspective from them if you're careful. And this is a very freehand exercise, and it requires you to know a bit of perspective and some on how to draw stuff clearly. And if you are not good at that, I would advise you to look at drawbox.com, which, by the way, they did not sponsor me, and they're a free website. Just letting you know, it's a very good website to learn the basics, and I recommend that to just about everybody. So if you do intend to start working on Drawbox, you can join my Discord, and there are people working on it as you speak, probably. Please don't quote me on this. But there are a few people there that are working on Drawbox, and I think you guys can probably talk and help each other. I'll try to do my best to give you some advice on that as well, but this video is not about Drawbox, so let's go back to what's interesting here. So what I like to do usually is create shapes that sort of break the original shape into something more interesting. So here I created a hole that's actually a cylinder that comes out of the bottom. I've done that before in a few of mine, and what the final goal is to have something that looks like it could be a scene. You don't have to be specific about what each object is, you just have to have something that makes sense in 3D. And if you can do that, congratulations, you have succeeded. But you can also go ahead and start to add more details. And here you can see I'm adding some cross contour lines to indicate what kind of shape this blob has in 3D. And you should also note that this is not meant to be very precise. You are allowed some leeway in your perspective. So don't feel like you need a ruler or you need straight lines. Just go with the flow. Draw whatever you can. And another thing I like to do is like just cut out shapes from the objects I currently have, like this. And then you erase this part. And someone took a bite out of this land. Isn't that lovely? Yeah. So you keep doing this and then your scene looks good. And sometimes I add characters, but for the simplicity of this video I will not do so because characters take a long time. But you should at least attempt to draw some of them. And if you do, try to make them simplified as much as you're able to. And don't go for too complex shapes right away. Make them from cylinders and from cubes and from spheres. Don't go for just like a floating head and then try to figure out how to place him in the scene. That's not gonna fly. So yeah, once you are satisfied with what you're doing, you can usually just lower the opacity a little bit and then you draw over this. So say I want this to feel more like grass, so I'm gonna do some grass texturing here over the edges. And I like to do this on the edges because it breaks a little of the shape, but I do keep very straight to the shape most of the time. So here we have the silhouette, and then here this is just gonna be mostly rock. So this is not rock, I guess, more like earth. So this is a very organic material, and I treat it as such, so I don't try to give it very harsh lines at all. Here we're gonna have just a tiny bit of movement because this is raised from the ground, and we should try to at least show that. And then here we have the hole, and I'm gonna add some grass over the hole, but on the other side it's gonna be very, very clean, so it's kind of like a cut because there is a pipe here. And so we add the pipe down there. We add some goop to the pipe, because why not? If it looks right to you, or if it makes sense in your head, just go for it. Here we can call it as a stone with like a little cave inside of it. And so I think it's very cool to just imagine these little scenes in your head and try to make sense of all the shapes you have here. So here, I don't know, this could be just some kind of really weird kettle. So this like water comes out of this, and this is just like a barrel. That makes absolutely no sense, but hey, that's not the point, okay? So here we have this weird barrel with another, with like a thing to drip water from on the side. And so you create your scene, you add your objects, you maybe add some people to it. And the more nonsensical this looks, at least for me, the better it is, just because I know it's not serious. I know I'm not trying to create a very complex scene, so I can loosen up and just doodle, you know. That's the point. So this for me is a warm-up exercise. I find it very fun. It doesn't take too much time. So the final thing I would do to most of these is just pick a nice light source and then just work from it. I will put it here just because this will create a lot of shadows and I like to draw these shadows out. So let's go with like this orangish color for the shadows. Again, doesn't need to make sense, just go with it. I like orange, okay? Shut up. So you're mostly concerned about form shadows and cast shadows, and those two things alone can get you pretty damn far if you do them correctly. So here you can see just how much those shadows really add to the picture. And just like that, in very few strokes, you can have something that feels dimensional, real, or at least doesn't feel like it's just lines, right? And so if you can get here, congratulations. I think you are you're in the good track, so to speak. And it's just a very helpful and fun exercise, at least to me. I may go more in depth in about perspective in the future, but right now I just wanted to share this with you. Yeah, that's about it. I think this concludes the video. So if you did like this and you found it helpful, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, if something here was just plain old confusing, like it's probably gonna be, just leave a comment and I'll try to help you out. Or even if you have a good question, I can include it in another video. And as always, if you wanna watch me live, you can do so at twitch.tv/kakudrawls. And I think that does it. So thank you for watching and bye bye.